is Jeff Idelson. How you been, Jeff?
Hey, I'm doing great, Rich. Good to be with you. And even though you've crossed to the dark side of football, we still love you in baseball.
What do you mean dark side, Jeff?
I'm a huge football fan. No, I'm just kidding. But
Come on.
I hope you're doing well. I'm a huge football fan.
Look, you are. I know what you're saying. And all the baseball guys are like, you used to be with us, now you're with them. I get that all the time from baseball people, but we're all part of the same American sports family, Jeff. And you've got a big ceremony coming up this weekend. For those who have never been to Cooperstown, can you describe what this weekend is and how it works, Jeff?
Yeah, absolutely, Rich. I mean, for those that haven't been to Cooperstown yet, you're missing out on a pretty exciting place. The year-round, it's the museum is a tribute to the game's history and its greatest players. We chronicle and document the game as it unfolds on the field, from Mike Trout being the All-Star Game MVP and his bat being in Cooperstown to all the way back to Cy Young ball from his no-hitter. Hall of Fame weekend is when all of your baseball cards come to life. We have 53 of our guys in town. All of them are here now for the weekend to welcome our 4 new inductees into the Baseball Hall of Fame.
And then there's a parade as well. And there's, do you still have that sort of ceremony or night at the Otesaga where all the players and returning players come and hang out? Do you still have that, Jeff, in the hotel?
Do. Yeah, well, we've kind of shifted things a little bit since you were last here, Rich. But we have events all weekend long. We started off this morning. Ozzie Smith took Andre Dawson and Greg Maddux and Fergie Jenkins and held a clinic for 60 fans at Doubleday Field, which was a lot of fun. There's a golf tournament tomorrow morning. We have our awards presentation in the afternoon tomorrow, where we're going to pay tribute to Tom Gage, the great writer out of Detroit. Mm-hmm. Dick Enberg, of course, from NBC and CBS, the Padres broadcaster. We're going to pay tribute to the 70th anniversary of the conclusion of World War II and baseball's role in it, with Secretary Mabus of the United States Navy on hand. And then Tony Clark is going to speak about the 45th anniversary of Curt Flood setting up the 1970 season and the advent of free agency. That's Saturday, 4:30 at Doubleday Field. That's followed by a parade all the way down Main Street, which is a lot of fun, a red carpet entry into the Baseball Hall of Fame for all the Hall of Famers who are in this parade. And then, of course, we have the ceremony on Sunday.
And the ceremony still takes place in that meadow, right, Jeff?
Yeah, it's a beautiful setting, very Field of Dreams-esque, the Clark Sports Center, and we're expecting an enormous crowd this weekend.
And what about the weather? Everything cooperating for you right now?
Yeah, I mean, right now it's a beautiful skies in Cooperstown. We're hopeful that it plays through till Sunday. We'd like to think that Mother Nature's a baseball fan, and let's see how she behaves on Sunday.
Jeff Idelson joining me here on the Rich Eisen Show, the president of the National Baseball Hall of Fame. Is Pete Rose going to be around? Because that's not a facetious question. I remember Pete would always have these autograph appearances at some store, some spot around in town. Do you expect to see Pete anywhere this weekend, Jeff?
He is not going to be here this weekend. I was out in Cincinnati for the All-Star Game last week, and some of my Reds Hall of Famers let me know that he wasn't going to be here this year. But you're right, he's been a fixture on Main Street, and he's part of the baseball landscape, so it wouldn't be unusual if he were here, but he won't be this year.
And so explain to folks how the voting works, Jeff, and how, regardless of what you or folks with the Hall of Fame might feel about the worthiness of not only Rose, but the steroid-era people, how does it work in terms of the voting and the places that you're allowed to offer people within the Hall of Fame?
Well, there's a couple different scenarios. With Pete, Pete's on baseball's permanent ineligible list, so he's not a candidate and can't become a candidate until or if he is ever reinstated by Major League Baseball. If he were reinstated, then one of the veterans committees would look at his candidacy because he hasn't played in so long. With guys who are on the ballot, the guys who took steroids or are under that cloud of having taken them, or there's any perception of it, they're just as eligible as anybody else on the ballot. And the Baseball Writers of America, there's about 650 of them that have the voting privileges each year, cast their ballots. They're given the criteria of looking at a player's overall contributions that he made to the game, as well as character, integrity, and sportsmanship as it relates to the game on the field. So with their crystal ball, they have to determine who they'd like to see be in Cooperstown, and whoever they choose to elect, we're happy to honor.
Now, I'm sure you've heard the conversation, Jeff, that many people believe that regardless of what the voters say, that if these people do get in, there should be something on a plaque that says that they were under a cloud or something along those lines, or forget about getting voted in, that there should be some wing within the museum there at the Hall of Fame that discusses this era and has objects or items or even people who are enshrined in that part of the Hall of Fame. Where do you stand on that subject, Jeff?
Well, Rich, we're three entities under one roof in Cooperstown, and for those that haven't been here yet, it's hard to understand unless you've been here. But we're three entities. We're a museum and a library that chronicles the game's history. We collect artifacts from players as accolades occur on the field, whether or not they're under the auspices of having taken steroids or rumored to have done so. If something happened on the field, then we're there to document it. We're an education facility where we use a museum's strong point is usually education, and in that sense, we have programs for school children about living a healthy lifestyle and educating them about the value of taking care of your body. In the museum, as I mentioned, we collect artifacts from guys who have been proven to have taken steroids and elsewise, and then there's the Hall of Fame, which is the celebratory part of what we are. It's a small part of the museum's overall experience, but that's where the guys that the writers choose to elect have their plaques. I will tell you, Rich, that in November we're opening up a new gallery called A Whole New Ball Game, which is going to chronicle the last 50 years of baseball history, the most recent 50 years, and we will talk about steroids and its role in baseball as part of that exhibit.
How are you going to do that, Jeff?
Well, what you do is you introduce the topic, and you don't take value judgments. When you're a museum, your job is to educate and to evoke conversation. So, there will be artifacts from players and stories that will be told that are purely factual, and then you ask your visitors to determine how they feel and let them start a conversation.
Yeah, but if just even choosing artifacts by one player or using photographs, won't that just be a controversial decision in itself?
No, I don't think so, because as a history museum, our job is to present an unabashed history of baseball. It's good and it's bad, and most of the history of baseball has been incredibly good, but this is a topic that is been prevalent in the game, or was prevalent in the game, isn't anymore. And you have to give baseball props for having the best testing program in all of Major League Sports by a long shot. But that's part of the game's history, and we're there to let fans know that the game has had its dark moments, but also grown from them.
Jeff Idelson, president of the National Baseball Hall of Fame, joining me here. As for your favorite speech that you've witnessed, Jeff, which would that be?
My favorite speech? Oh, there have been so many good ones, Rich. I mean, I'm proud of, I love Phil Niekro's speech that he gave back in '97, where he talked about his dad never being too tired in the coal mines to be able to come out and play catch with him and teach him how to throw the knuckleball. To George Brett feeling like he was the worst of the four Brett baseball playing brothers, and he couldn't understand why he was on stage and his brothers weren't. And then, of course, I have to give props to Ryan Sandberg for talking about character and integrity, which mattered so much to him when he played. And finally, Ricky Henderson, who I worked with in New York and had concerns about how things would go with him. He practiced and practiced and practiced and delivered one of the best speeches I've ever heard.
Now, you're referring to something I'm so eager to ask you about, Jeff. Your 5 seasons, 89 through 93, 4 years, as the director of media relations and publicity for none other than George M. Steinbrenner of the New York Yankees. Give me your best George story. The meatiest, juiciest story, Jeff. Give it to me. Cough it up. What do you got? What do you got?
Geez, he I don't know. I mean, the guy was driven. He was an intense human being. I joined the Yankees at 24 as their assistant PR guy, and then got promoted quickly when my boss decided to leave. Harvey Green, who you know well. I went
for
to
the Dolphins.
NFL.
Yeah.
Long time with the Dolphins. Harvey hired me, and I went up to meet Mr. Steinbrenner, as I'll still call him even in death. Early on in my tenure, a few weeks in at a welcome home party, and I said, Mr. Steinbrenner, I wanted to introduce myself to you. My name's Jeff Idelson. I'm your new assistant PR guy. And he said, oh, you're the young man from Detroit. And I said, no, sir, I'm the young man from Boston. And he said, I have 3 words of advice for you, son. I said, what's that, sir? He said, rent, don't buy.
Oh, my gosh. They broke the mold with him, Jeff. I mean, but do you look back on those times wistfully in a way now because it's so long ago, and as you point out, Mr. Steinbrenner is no longer with us, or or did he toughen you up for the real world in a way?
No,
Jeff?
Rich, I enjoyed working for Mr. Steinbrenner. I mean, he was a tough guy to work for, But I learned a lot. I really did learn a lot from him about always being ahead of the curve, never leaving anything to chance, and always being prepared. And it was tough love, so to speak, in the professional sense. But I gained a lot of respect for him and became, I think, a better executive from having worked for him.
Were you there when Dion was part of the mix too, Jeff?
I was there with Dion. I was there when I was at the game in Seattle when he bolted to go play for the Falcons. Yeah.
What was that like, Jeff?
It was interesting. I really, I wanted Dion to be successful early on. I mean, he was a lot of fun. He was such a character coming out of college and just short minor league career. But, he brought a different kind of attitude to the clubhouse. I guess he brought some attitude to the clubhouse, but, that's who Dion was. I mean, he came in with bats, and, guys would put a number on the handle of their bat so they'd be identified. Dion had a $ sign on his, which was a first for us. But listen, he was a good teammate to the guys, and it was sort of surreal when he bolted the Kingdom and headed for Atlanta.
See, I even got you just for a split second over to the so-called dark side, Jeff. Talking a little bit of football right there. Look out. Look out, Jeff. It creeps in there. It creeps in you. And then it gets you.
I understand. I'm a prisoner on Sundays. I'm home watching.
Okay, Jeff. Hey, listen, have another great ceremony. It truly is one of a kind, with the setting and the history of baseball all together in one spot. And BGO, Randy Johnson, Pedro, and John Smoltz is a great quartet. Enjoy it.
Thanks, Rich. It's a massive star power there. You got 9 Cy Youngs, 11,000 strikeouts, almost 500 wins, and a guy with 3,000 hits who's the all-time doubles leader among right-handed hitters. A lot of star power.
Yeah, and Enberg too, who is as great as they get. I did not know that Dick was going to be there, so enjoy that too.
Will do.
Thank you. You bet. That's Jeff Idelson, the president of the National Baseball Hall of Fame.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern. On Audience.